Greetings, my friends. George here from No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm back today to share some love for the mighty Cradle of Filth, a band that's very fitting for this wintry time of year. And in particular, I'm going to be sharing some words on these three articles. These are 2025 cassette tape reissues, courtesy of Darkness Shall Rise Productions, of three of Cradle of Filth's early releases. We've got the first two full-length albums, and we've got the kind of in-between contractual obligation EP as well, now available on cassette tape. Lovely, lovely cassette tape copies we've got here. Cradle of Filth, of course, UK Gothic black metal band. Been in the spotlight recently in 2025, certainly, for not just for their excellent Screaming of the Valkyries long play album, a brilliant album, I may say. Absolute fantastic album. In fact, it featured in the No Nonsense Metal Reviews top 15 albums of 2025. Bit of a shameless plug there. But also there's been some rather high profile fallouts. There's been some big personality clashes, shall we say, lineup changes, all that drama. And they've done loads of touring and all that good stuff. In fact, I did catch Cradle of Filth at the Epic Studios in Norwich back in July, and they were spectacular. They were absolutely fantastic. That was before the fallout of the band. But enough about that. Here to talk about these brilliant reissues. So these are all albums that I must admit I haven't actually listened to in quite some time. I think the last time that I listened to, in particular, this gem, Dusk And Her Embrace, the second full-length album, was probably getting on for over a year ago. And in fact, the other releases even longer, which is shame on me. It's been a while, but these are brilliant releases, and it's been fantastic to revisit them. So starting chronologically, the first reissue, I'll show the other version that I have here, which is the CD copy. We've got the debut album, The Principle of Evil Made Flesh. So this was released in 1994. And this is an interesting release because we know Cradle of Filth over the years obviously morphed into this very symphonic, epic, gothic black metal band with Danny Filth's shrieking banshee vocals and his kind of snarling growls in there as well. And kind of become quite a spectacle, a very theatric performance. This debut, released in 1994, is considerably heavier. I would say that it's really leaning into that kind of death metal style. Although it's definitely blackened, there is a strong death metal vibe in there, strong death metal undertone. It's still a grand release, and on tape, I will say this does sound fantastic. I'm sure there's some people out there, if it was available on tape originally, I'm sure that there are people out there that would argue it probably sounded even rawer and more evil and diabolical back in the late 90s. But Darkness Shall Rise, once again, they've done a fantastic job with these reissues here. They've got really high quality inserts, so you get all of your information, all the literature there, pictures of the band. You've also got all your lyrics, and I really do appreciate how much kind of effort they seem to put into their products. Darkness Shall Rise, I've talked about numerous releases on the channel over the years, bits and pieces that I've picked up from their store or through other stores, and they're always really good, and actually they sound brilliant. So it's just a nice black tape shell, nothing complicated there, really nice insert. But I was surprised at just how heavy this album is. Like I say, I've heard this album numerous times before, of course, but it really does sound much heavier. Obviously, they've evolved over the years and they've become something considerably more epic, as I say, but this has a strong kind of black and death metal vibe to it. I'm not going to go comparing them to anyone else. I'm also not going to start picking out too many choice tracks, but I would say that the title track, The Principle of Evil Made Flesh, is a very good number, bit of a ditty. I would say that the Black Goddess rises into one final graven kiss, crescendo of passion bleeding. These are really great, very Cradle of Filth tracks, but very heavy. And actually the second side is equally as brilliant, of Mist and Midnight Skies. I absolutely love the poetic nature of Cradle of Filth's lyrics and their tight song titles as well. A dream of wolves in the snow. How fanciful. Summer dying fast. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, a really interesting, quite considerably different Cradle of Filth album. I think this one really stands out as being something quite different, quite unique. So the follow-up release, or one of the follow-up releases, and certainly the follow-up in this trilogy of reissues, is an EP. And it turns out, from doing a little bit of research, that this was a contractual obligation. So this was something that they hastily put together and released in 1996 in order to get out of a contract with Cacophonous Records. You see here, this is a Cacophonous Records release. I would say that for something that's hastily put together, I know that we have The Forest Whispers My Name, which appears on the debut, but re-recorded. I would say that even though this is hastily put together, this does sound good. It's a good EP. It's a nice little kind of stopgap. Still quite a long stopgap. It's 6 tracks in total. But it sounds considerably more Cradle of Filth, in my opinion. This is certainly where they start to really come into that very gothic black metal sound and style. I should say that it's actually entitled, and I don't know if it is VEmpire or Vampire, but it's VEmpire or Dark Fairy Tales in Palestine. Actually says on the back there. So this is a great one. I really actually enjoyed this one. It's a bit of an interesting listen. The tape sounds brilliant as well. Again, they've done a fab job here. Good old Darkness Shall Rise. So another just black tape shell. And insert, particularly great shot of the band there. Really embracing the gothic poet nature. So cool literature, it's all in there. As was the way in Cradle of Filth, and is to this day. Lineup changes along the way, of course. So we've got pictures and info, and then we've got our lyrics there as well. But again, it'd been a long time since I'd last heard this EP. Quite a considerably long time. So it was an enjoyable one to revisit. I think it certainly was a great prelude to what was coming next, which is arguably one of their best moments. Cradle of Filth have so many albums and so many great albums. I personally feel they are one of those bands where they don't really have any poor albums. But revisiting the third and final article here, Dusk And Her Embrace, the follow-up album, full-length album, also released in 1996, this was a really enjoyable album to revisit. And I enjoyed it far more than I seem to remember enjoying it. Personally, there's albums, Cradle of Filth albums I always go to when I'm in the mood for some Cradle of Filth. There's certain albums I'm always drawn to, but this was a great one to revisit. So Dusk And Her Embrace receives a different album cover. So we've got a different cover here, different artwork. Got a little bit of a mix there. It's a good cover, I would say. It's certainly creepy and it's very gothic. But this is a really raw black metal album. It's very grand, very gothic. It's very big sounding. That's how I would sound it. Say it sounds anyway. Describe the sound there. It sounds big. And it's a great one. We have some particular gems here. Nocturnal Supremacy, Gothic Romance, Graveyard by Moonlight, the title track, of course, Heaven Torn Asunder, Funeral in Carpathia. Brilliant. And actually, this tape includes a couple of demo versions as well, which is a nice touch. Definitely. A great revisit. And this, certainly, in terms of the music, it sounds far more black metal than the kind of death metal leaning of the first album. Danny Filth, the great Danny Filth, very interesting character. And a great vocalist, absolutely fantastic vocalist. Sounds like he's really sort of starting to find his footing as a vocalist here. Sounding good. Sounding good. I just love the magic of these albums. And I think Cradle of Filth really do have a kind of magic to them. It's perfect kind of, you know, fantasy RPG playing soundtrack music. It's just really quite encapsulating stuff. You really feel like you're getting a glimpse into a real theatrical performance there, a real poetic performance. And it's just great to revisit these. But I would honestly say these are well worth picking up. If you're a Cradle of Filth fan, you might already have them, and good on you. I think they are quite limited, not quite sure on the number of copies. I believe you can still get them directly from Darkness Shall Rise Productions. I actually picked these up from EMP, so the merch website, because they aren't that readily available here in the UK. If you do want to get them here in the UK, shipping will always sting you. But I think they were about $10.99 or something each. And to be honest, to me, that didn't seem all that bad because they're really high quality articles. They sound great, and I just wanted them. Short of it, the short story, really wanted them. Wanted to have them in the collection. So do pick them up if you can. If you're skeptical, worried about the kind of tape quality, it's analog. Don't be too surprised if it does sound a little bit more analog, but it does sound great. So don't be too concerned there with the quality. These are also just all good releases to check out. If you're looking for something gothic, black metal, symphonic, a little bit more grand, then definitely delve into these interesting early works of the great Cradle of Filth. So, what are your thoughts and opinions on these albums? Principles of Evil Made Flesh. That's certainly an interesting one, a very heavy article. Of course, the follow-up full-length album, the long play there. We've got Dusk and Her Embrace, and then we have the VEmpire EP. What are your thoughts on these ones? Check them out if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, of course. What do you think about the Mighty Cradle? Interested to hear thoughts and opinions, as always. But thanks very much for watching. Do feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, support. It's greatly appreciated, as always. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all the good, heavy things. Till next time, take care of yourselves, my friends. Listen to Cradle of Filth and stay freaking heavy.